Tobias Harris at $8,500. I think that he is also a pretty high floor option. And look, I know that everyone probably fears the Utah Jazz defense, right? They have a great pedigree. They're one of the best last year. They've had some great performances this year. The Utah Jazz defense has been really bad in the last 5 games. And really, in particular, where they've been bad is in the lane. They've been terrible defending inside. Rudy Gobert has not stepped up. And look, Tobias Harris is a guy that's played a ton of minutes. He had a giant usage rate last time out, 36% against Indiana, where he had over 51 DraftKings fantasy points. Without Joel Embiid in the lineup, I think it's pretty clear that they want to get the ball into Tobias Harris's hands. And I think that if he drives inside or decides to post up, as he likes to do as well, he shouldn't meet too much resistance, in terms of the Jazz interior defense, the way they've been playing the last 5 games. Of course, something crazy could happen and the Jazz could just revert back to being a great defense. But if you want to play the trends, you want to play the defense that we've seen over the last 2 weeks for the Utah Jazz, I think Tobias Harris is a really good option at $8,500. I just think you're going to get a lot of minutes, a lot of usage, and he's maybe going to have a decent matchup here. And also, Utah is not going to be a team that a lot of people want to go target, especially with a high-priced option. So maybe you also get a little bit lower ownership on Tobias Harris. I think that's a pretty good spot to play.
All right, Gare Bear, how about you, man? Forward you like?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in the 5K and 6K tiers with the Clippers. Kenny mentioned Reggie Jackson. I think Eric Bledsoe is a pretty good play as well. And then you've got Nick Batum, who's sitting right there at $5,000. He's not scoring nearly as much as he did to begin November. He was averaging 16.8 points per game across his first 5 starts in the month. But he's still playing a ton of minutes. He's had 35 minutes, 37 minutes in 2 of his last 3 games. He's someone who, if you remove a very outlier box score against the Timberwolves, it's a game he only played 19 minutes because it just got incredibly lopsided. If you take that game away, he's averaging over 30 DraftKings points per game so far in November. So at $5,000, I just think it's a really, really low price to pay for, again, someone who's not a ceiling player, but someone who is a floor player. And the other thing to note about this particular grouping is if Terrence Mann doesn't play in this game, he's questionable right now with an ankle issue. That's probably a few extra possessions for each one of those guys on the Clippers that I already named. So I think Batum is someone who could really pay off that price tag tonight.
All right, Nick, who would you build around at forward? You have 6 games to choose from on this slate.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the Philly-Utah game. And I know with Philly, when you're looking at defensive efficiency, they're 22nd in the league right now in that category. So I want to get a little piece of that. And I know Garion was talking about Donovan Mitchell a little bit beforehand, and I do think that is a fair pick. But there's a reason why his price tag has dropped a little bit. I want to go with a guy who's shown a little bit of something recently. I know, we're talking 5K range. It's a little bit of flux. I'm going to go with Bojan Bogdanovic tonight, though. Coming off a game where he hoisted up 13 3-pointers, 4th 20-point game of the season. So I want to get a little bit of that, a little bit of savings. And at a time where, the Jazz scores, their efficiency is a little bit in flux all across the board. And I know Bogdanovic isn't necessarily an exception to that. But when I've seen him get a little bit of extra volume recently, especially from 3, where again those makes are gonna add up from a fantasy perspective. I'm gonna go with him tonight against a team that's not quite as efficient defensively.